Mastering French articles is quite literally the very first absolutely crucial step to sounding like a true native speaker. You see, these tiny little words placed before nouns do a ton of heavy lifting. They tell us if something is specific or general, countable or uncountable. And while they might seem totally insignificant to us English speakers, they are, without a doubt, the architectural blueprint of French fluency. So let's break it all down in this explainer.
Okay, let's dive into this. Notice how in English the word the stays exactly the same every single time, right? The book, the apple, the children. But in French, that article completely changes. Here is your golden rule. Unlike English, French articles must always agree with the gender, whether it's masculine or feminine, and the number of the noun they follow. So let's start with category number 1, articles définis, or definite articles. And this brilliantly illustrates our 4 specific types. These correspond directly to the English word the, and we use them for specific items. If the noun is masculine and singular, you use le, like le livre. Feminine and singular, it's la, like la table. For plural nouns, regardless of gender, you use les, like les enfants. And, if a singular noun happens to start with a vowel or a silent H, you just drop the vowel on the article and use le, like l'ami.
Here's exactly how it looks in action. Le chat est jaune. The cat is young. Notice how the article le sits right there, glued to the front of the noun. Because the article is so tightly bound to the noun in French, one of the absolute best habits you can build right now is to never memorize a French noun by itself. Always memorize the gender of the noun alongside its article. Don't just learn that cat is chat. Learn that it is le chat.
Now, before we move on, I have to warn you about a massive trap for English speakers. In English, when we speak in general terms, we tend to drop the article completely. We just say, books are useful. But French grammar actually demands the definite article for general statements. You absolutely must say, les livres sont utiles.
Moving right along to number 2, articles indéfinis, or indefinite articles.
While our definite articles are for specific things, these indefinite ones are for non-specific items, corresponding to a, an, or some. Getting the pronunciation right here is key. For a masculine singular noun, we use un, like un stylo, a pen. For feminine singular, we use une, like une pomme, an apple. And for plurals of both genders, we use des, like des livres, some books.
Let's look at another sneaky difference. In English, we often completely skip the word some for plural nouns, just casually saying, I bought apples. But in French, no way. You cannot leave a noun hanging out there all alone. You must say, j'ai acheté des pommes. Literally, I bought some apples.
Okay, number 3, articles partitif, or partitive articles.
Now, what's really interesting about this breakdown is that these are uniquely French. They're used specifically to express some or any for uncountable quantities, substances you can't easily count one by one, like water or bread. For masculine singular, you use du, like du pain. For feminine singular, it's de la, like de la confiture. If the uncountable substance starts with a vowel or silent H, you use de la, like de l'eau. And for plural countable items, when you mean an unspecified amount, you use de, like de free.
I literally cannot emphasize this enough. Never, ever omit the partitive article in French. If you're sitting at a cute little cafe in Paris and use the direct English translation of I want cheese, dropping the article entirely, it sounds completely wrong. It basically breaks the structure of your sentence. You must anchor the thought to the idea of a partial quantity. You want some cheese. Je veux du fromage. Which brings us to number 4, the curveball, la négation, or negative sentences.
So, this is a critical grammar curveball that trips up almost every single language learner. When you transform a sentence into a negative phrase using ne.pas, your indefinite and partitive articles don't just stay the same. Un, de, du, de la, and de lol all magically collapse into just one tiny word, de.
Let's look at this in practice. If you want some bread, you say, je veux du pain. But the absolute second you make it negative, that du collapses into de. Je ne veux pas de pain. I do not want any bread. This little word de steps right in to handle all the heavy lifting in a negative sentence when you're talking about quantities.
But of course, it wouldn't be French without a little exception, right?
Verbs of preference like aimer to like, adorer to love, déteste to hate, and préférer to prefer are the grand exceptions here. If you're talking about things you deeply like or hate, you always use the definite article, and it stubbornly holds its ground even in a negative sentence. You wouldn't say je n'aime pas des chocolats, you keep the definite article and say je n'aime pas le chocolat.
All right, Section 5, the native speaker test. We've covered a ton of ground, so we're skipping the traditional wrap-up to launch right into a challenge to lock in what you just learned.
Here is your first one. Fill in the blank. J'aime blank café. The translation is, I like coffee. I'll give you a hint. Think about the rule we just covered for general statements, and specifically look at the verb. It's a verb of preference. Which article fits perfectly here?
Okay, lock in your answer for that first one. Here is your second challenge. Fill in the blank. Je bois blank eau. This means I'm drinking some water. Your hint here, water is an unspecified, completely uncountable quantity of a liquid. And crucially, it's a word that starts with a vowel. So, what goes in the blank?
So the crucial point is, did you get them right? For the first one, it's le. J'aime le café. A general preference requires the definite masculine article. For the second, it's de le. Je bois de l'eau. An uncountable liquid starting with a vowel. Mastering these little, seemingly invisible words is the ultimate secret code to true French fluency. But this all begs a pretty huge question, doesn't it? If articles change based on gender, how exactly are you supposed to know if a table, a book, or an idea is masculine or feminine in the very first place? Well, that is a whole different puzzle for us to solve.